Watercolor Flowers for 2nd grade. I'm just doing background.
Okay, today we're going to be doing an art docent lesson called Watercolor Flowers for the 2nd grade. When you go to the supply area for the art docent materials, besides the usual plastic tub with all the art supplies, you also need to pick up the yellow portfolio, which will contain the sample prints as well as sample artwork for you to display during the lesson. With the 2nd graders, if the classroom has an area where they do story time, you can pull all the kids over to the side to explain what you're going to be doing while the helper docents are setting up the materials. They'll need to have water for each student, a paper towel for each student, watercolors. They will have a square piece of watercolor paper as well as a large 12 by 18 piece of just white construction paper. While you have the students sitting with you, you're going to be talking about the idea of flowers as an inspiration for artists. There are many different types of flowers that can be painted, different styles. We're missing Georgia. And you can hold up the flowers, have them look and see if they recognize particular types of flowers, an iris, roses, daisies, the different techniques that the artists use in trying to create those, maybe the layers of the paint. Today we're going to be doing watercolor with 2 different techniques, wet on wet and then wet on dry. And this sample piece, I think, is a really good illustration because you can see the base color underneath and then how the artist applied different strokes on top of it to give it a more dimensional look. We also have our lovely bouquet that might be an inspiration to some of our young artists. Then you'll have the kids come back to their seats where the docents will have passed out the materials that they need. We're going to start with talking also, while they're at the rug, you want to also talk about a focal point. That's the area that the eye is drawn to and how you create that. And it's often nice to have that being not right in the center, but off to the side, because as the eye looks to the side, it takes in other items of the painting. So if we were to look here, you could ask the children, what do you think the focal point is here? And it might be this iris up at the top or this large one just off of center. One of the first things we're going to have the children do is, with the circular template and the watercolor paper, they're going to trace around it with a pencil. So if we can get our young artist helpers, their materials, we'll get them started. Paper's coming.
Paper's coming. Yeah.
You have butterflies in your pencil. All right. So you're going to have them hold it down with one hand while they go around with their pencil, and the other. I'll help you. I like how you're holding your pencil, your paper down with your template. Okay. And what we're going to be painting today is a bouquet of flowers seen from above. So as if you were looking down on the bouquet. This way. And then after they have traced their circle, they can hold up their template and the art docents can come along and collect those, or they can make a stack of them in the center. And then again, as in other lessons, we're going to have the children turn their paper over. Okay, girls, go ahead and flip your paper over. And right in the middle, we're going to write our name. Can you do that? Oh, good listening. Thank you. So we're going to just go right for the middle. So you can put it flat, and if you aim for the middle, you'll be just fine. Because later on we will be cutting, or the teachers and the kids will be cutting these out, so you don't want the name up in the edge. Right here's fine. Great job. Good job, Sophia. Thanks, Madison. All right. At this time, it's probably a good idea for the docents to give each child a paper towel One of the skills that we're going to be learning today, actually reinforcing, because I believe they get some of this in first grade, is really how to use watercolor paints. We're going to be talking about priming our paints, and that's where, and look at how beautiful these paints look after years of being used. So girls, what we're going to start off, and you can watch me first, I'm going to dip my paintbrush in my nice clean water. How many of you have painted before and the water gets all kind of brown and yucky? Did anybody have that happen? Today we're going to try to keep our water really clean. And we're going to start by dipping our water in, and then we're going to, our paintbrush in the water, and then we're going to squeeze and watch the drops. 1, 2, 3, we're going to get a little bit more. This is called priming your paints. So this just lets the paint in the palette soften up. And we're going to do that with our blue and our purple and our red.
It's pink.
It looks like pink too. And our orange and our yellow. So why don't we go ahead and give our young artists their paint and water and brushes, and they're going to prime their paint. Remember, you just dip it in and squeeze over. We're not going to touch the paint at this time. We're going to leave green B for right now because a lot of our painting, we're going to make our own green when it comes to green. Who knows how we make green? What colors can we use to make green? Blue is one. Good guess, that would make purple. Blue and yellow would make green. So when we do our painting, we're going to make our own green. So let's go ahead and prime our paints. You do. Okay, you should practice with mine. We'll share. So we're going to dip our brush in, and you can move your paint close, your water closer to you. Great job squeezing those drops on. Who remembers what we're doing? What's this called?
Watercolor flowers.
Watercolor flowers. And what are we doing right now with our paints?
Priming them.
We're priming our paints. Good job. All right. After they get their paints primed, we're going to start our wet on wet process where we take a clean brush, dip it in the water, and we're going to go all across our circle with just water. Because when we add the color, the watercolor to it, it's going to react differently to a wet piece of paper than it would to a dry piece of paper. So we're going to get it pretty wet. And you can see it's kind of shiny.
Sometimes I like to do this.
And then in between, we're going to add some colors. But in between, we're going to teach the children how to clean their brush before going to a new color.
Yes, I think I know that.
All right, girls, do you feel like your paper is nice and wet?
I don't think I haven't done the whole thing.
Okay, we'll do a little bit more. The first thing we're going to do is start with our yellow. And it should be good and wet from priming. And then we're going to paint a yellow circle, which is going to be our focal point. We want to make it nice and large. I'm going to tip mine briefly to show you and then put it back, as you can see how the pigment runs with the wet. But it bleeds, it spreads out. You could give them an idea about how large to make it, maybe the size of their fist or a tennis ball, to give them some guidance on how to do their size. Very good. Now we're going to change our colors. Girls, hold your pens up, your paintbrushes up, and be a listener. Okay? Can you be a listener first? We're going to use our paper towel, and we're going to give our paintbrush a hug. We're just going to fold it over, a little gentle squeeze, and then we pull it out. We're going to do that a couple times, and then our paper towel absorbs the paint or the pigment. Sometimes the children are very eager to keep their paper towels because they have such pretty colors afterwards. So you can give your paintbrush a hug. We don't want to smush it down. Can I borrow yours for a second? Ah, you fixed it. When they smush it down, then our paintbrushes get like this and they won't last as long. So we really want to hug and kind of pull. It keeps our paint bristles aligned and it keeps our artist materials in good shape. Now we can dip in the water, and look, my water is still clear. It is still clear. There's a tiny bit of yellow in the brush still, but it's pretty clear. Now we're going to change to a different color. We're going to go to red. So kids, go ahead and dip, it might look a little pink, in your red, and we're going to make 2 smaller globs, not as big as our yellow. You can paint it in a circle, and you'll notice it starts to bleed out a little bit, but that's part of the process. May I show yours? Nice. So again, the color spreads. Ooh, it's dripping. Sorry. So you can do more than one. They can be next to each other. They can be far apart. You can do 2 or 3. Again, this is where the individual artists make each piece a little bit different. What are we going to do if we want to change colors, girls? Who remembers? What do we call that white? We're going to hug it. That's right. So we're going to hug our brush, give a little squeeze and pull down. See our bristles stay aligned, and talk them through it over and over and over again. And it is amazing when you are doing a 3rd grade lesson with paint like this, the kids really get that idea. This is something we start, I think, in 1st grade and continue to build on this skill, and they're really good. And my water is still clear. All right, how about we use some blue next? Does that sound good, girls? All right, so dip your brush in blue. You don't have to get it wet again because our paint's pretty wet. And maybe we can do some more blobs. They'll be kind of in between. Ooh, that's very vibrant, very bold.
Look at mine.
And if you're finding the paint isn't bleeding as much as it was before, it's because it's drying out. And with a clean brush, you could paint more clean water on it. Let's see. And you know, we probably could have had a few small, oops, I forgot to hug. You could use some small yellows. We can clean our brush, hug, and pull. And then I'm going to add some more water in between to keep it nice and wet. And even when I do that near the stuff I've painted already, it'll start to bleed with that too. So this technique is called wet on wet. We're using wet paint on wet paper. I'm going to add some more yellow. I forgot to do some smaller yellows. So girls, if you want to do that hug, clean your brush first. Well, look down. See how there's some green? That's the blue and yellow making green. So you want to clean it a little bit more. And the other technique that's nice to show kids, so many times when we color in coloring books, parents say, oh, stay in the lines, stay in the lines. With art, when you're doing your own real art, it's okay to have those colors cross that line. Think of photographs that have just part of the image shown. Painting off the edge. And after they have, those are kind of our base flowers. And then we'll be adding on top of that. We're not going to do our leaves or our greenery just yet. So look it over, see if you want to add anything else. And then we're going to set these aside to dry. And then we're going to practice some strokes for adding those details later. All right. Okay, why don't you add your last circle. But we're going to do more painting. We're not done, I promise.
You'll get another piece of paper.
So this is the base of our bouquet. Here we've added, and it starts to dry. And our next step is going to be practicing some different painting techniques that we'll add to our bouquet later. So we're going to set these aside to dry, girls. And why don't you go ahead and give your paintbrush another hug. Get that nice and clean to start with. And then the docents will come by and give each student a large 18 by 12 piece of paper. And I think they usually have their pencils in their desk, so the pencils will still be there, so they can write their name on it. And now we're going to be practicing mixing secondary colors. You girls already helped me learn that green is made by using which two colors again?
Yellow and blue.
Yellow and blue. Who can think of another color we can make?
Orange.
How can we make orange?
Red and yellow.
Red and yellow. Do you have an idea?
I know.
Allison?
Secondary
Okay, let someone else do something. Thank you. How can we make purple? Blue and red. Fabulous. So we're going to be mixing some of those secondary colors now. So again, encourage the kids to give you information. Act like you don't know and they will teach you. Even if you do know, they'll teach you. All right, so we're going to start with, and here's a term that we haven't used. We're going to put yellow paint on our brush, and the way we say that is we're going to load it. So go ahead, you can get your brush a little bit wet. It doesn't need to be super wet. Kind of wipe off the excess on the side, and we're going to load it with yellow. So just kind of roll it around in the yellow. Oh, great, I'm reading the wrong side. Okay, so so we're going to make just a little bit of a blob back and forth with our yellow. So we're just going to paint yellow like this. And now we're going to tip just the tip in red. So we're not cleaning in between. And we're going to just tip it in red. Just hold it up and down and just put the tip in like this. And then we're going to put that across our yellow. And what color are we making?
Orange.
Orange. And you can see where I started. It's a darker orange than down below where there's more yellow and it's a lighter orange. Then you can put a little bit more of the tip, and then run it across your yellow.
That's alright.
So this is how we made orange, by using yellow and red. All right, now let's hug our brush.
I'm not gonna tie it. Whoa.
We'll rinse and another hug. You know, we'll get a chance to look at our paper towels and how pretty they turned out at the end, okay, Emma? All right, now we're going to load our brush with red. Let's go ahead and dip in the red. And we're going to make another blob over here. In a circle. And we're going to put the tip in the blue. Madison, you're the one who helped me with this. What color are we going to make now if we're going to add blue to this? We're going to have blue, we have red, so we're going to make purple. So we can drag that through our red and see how the purple shows up. And you'll notice there's different shades of purple depending on how much red and how much blue. And that's one of the nice things about when you make your own colors. It's a little bit more, what do I want to say? Unique. Very nice word. It's a little bit more unique. This time, so you guys have your purple. After you make your purple, hug your brush again. Clean that off. And this time we're going to make purple again, but we're going to start with blue.
That's easier.
All right, so let's load up with blue.
I didn't get it.
You just have a lot of blue, that's why it's so dark. Load your brush with blue and paint your blob. And then we're going to do a tip in red, and we'll put that through. And this too makes purple, but you can see it's different. A little bit darker. Okay, now get a tip. You might need to prime your paint maker a little better. See, I forgot to say to myself, hug, hug. Yeah.
Wow.
My paint had stayed so clean, and then I dipped it once without hugging it, and now it's blue. Okay. Looks like you're going to tip it in red, Emma. That's okay. Tip it in red. And then pull it through the blue. And you'll make a different shade of purple. After they've finished mixing their secondary colors, we're going to go through some different brush strokes. And again, besides talking about what colors they're going to use, we're going to talk a lot about how to hold the paintbrush. So for our first one that we're going to do, girls, we're going to do a fine line spiral. Can you think of anything that looks like this?
Cookie.
A cookie might
A
be like
donut.
a donut. Ooh. A rose. I was thinking also made me think of a snail shell. Okay, but I think a rose is more appropriate for our lesson. So let's load our brush with red, and we're going to hold our paintbrush right up and down so that the paintbrush tip at the back is pointing right up at the ceiling. You make your paintbrush point straight up and down. And now when we paint, we're going to try to paint using our whole arm with just the tip touching the paper. We're going to try to move from our shoulder. Everybody with your other hand, touch your shoulder. And see if you can feel your arm going around. We're going to move from our shoulder, not our wrist. Okay, so let's try that. We're going to paint in a spiral, in a circle. Here we go, straight up and down, and go around. Very nice. So with that, we have our spiral. Our next one is called a broken spiral. You guys all got it. This one is very similar. So go ahead and load in red again. And with this one, our arm is a little bit nervous, so we're going to have it start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So again, moving from your arm, we're going to go straight up and down, and we're going to just do little bits. And you can lift it in between a little bit. Okay. Very nice job. Very nice. All right. So since our brush is in red, let's keep it in red. We'll load up some more red. And now we're going to learn a stroke called a stipple stroke. Can you guys say that? Stipple? Stipple stroke.
I see what it is.
What we're going to do here is we loaded up our brush with red, and now we're going to put just the tip in blue. So we have two colors, red and blue. Now when we do this, we're going to change how we hold it. Last time we held it up and down. Now we're going to hold it this way, like we're driving a race car, a little car. So we're going to hold it like this. Can you show me holding it like this? I'm going to hold it from the top, like this. And you can go around and help the kids, because this is not how they hold a pencil in class. This is very different for them. So you're going to go this way. Think of driving a car. And again, this is where you have your art docent helpers going around, making sure they have it in the right position. So now we're going to push it straight down. So we're going to go straight down and lift. And if you looked, mine leaves the flat underneath. It kind of looks like a pedal. So you're going to push it straight down and lift.
And you might need to load it again.
So you're going to, if you need to load it again, you want to hug, rinse, hug, and then load it in red and tip it in blue. Do you want me to come closer to show the smush?
I'm zooming.
Okay.
I'm zoomed.
And then we're just pushing it down. And the two colors will blend together. All right, let's hug our brushes. Nice. And that was our stipple strokes. So go ahead and hug your brush. Get those colors off. I'm going to rinse mine a little and hug it again. Now this time we're going to load our brush with yellow. And go ahead and get yellow paint all in that brush. And we're going to put the tip in blue. And this is called the pull stroke. And this would be a great way to make a stem. So I'm going to use this flower right here, this blob, and I'm going to just pull it straight down. And you can see how the green and the blue and the yellow mix together to make green. And there's different shades and variations in that color green. It's much more interesting than just using the green that Crayola gives you. If you then wanted to use this same technique, you could pull back up for making stems and leaves. And when we combine our color mixing with our fine line spiral, our broken spiral, our stipple strokes, we're going to go back and add details to our wet on wet circular blobs to turn this into a beautiful spring bouquet of flowers. May I hold yours up, Madison? When I look at Madison's, even just her color mixing, right away I see a tulip. So she could take a darker shade of yellow or a little orange to go over that to outline and make the segments of the flower petals of a tulip. Beautiful. You're welcome. Okay. Are we dry? Pretty close? All right, so ladies, why don't you lift up your paintbrushes and go ahead and give them a hug. And we're going to switch over to our bouquet painting. And you get to keep, they love to take the practice strokes home as well. We'll set these aside to dry for you. Here you go, Emma. And probably when you're doing this with a full class of kids, it's going to take a little longer. So this will have more of an opportunity to dry. These aren't all the way dry yet. So we'll see what happens. We'll maybe start with some of the other ones that are drier. Okay, so this is where, girls, you get to add your own personal details to these flowers. You're going to add your fine line spirals, your broken spirals to give detail. Here you want to encourage the kids. We have yellow here. What color would look really pretty on top that would stand out? An orange or red might give you a little bit of an orangey look. So I'm going to load my paint with red. You might want to watch first because you may not want to do it the same way I'm going to do. And I'm going to use my spiral. I'm going to start in the center using just the tip. And it kind of comes out a broken spiral all on its own, but there's a beautiful, it could be a rose, it could be a ranicula. And maybe if you already have red loaded, you want to do that on a different colored flower. You can even use little tiny tips or dots in the center to be kind of where the pollen is. And then spiral through it. And then when you want to change your color on your brush, girls, what are we going to do? Hug our brush. Rinse it in the water after that. Give it another hug. What else can we do? Maybe some yellow on the red. Actually, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do yellow. Tip with blue and try some of those stipple strokes right in the middle. What would that do? I'm going to do my flat ones like that. And they're going to just continue in this fashion, adding those details. And then when they want to add some greenery in between, that's when we're going to really encourage them to do their yellow tipped with blue. And they can do that in between. We're not really going to see the stems because the stems are below since we're looking down at a bouquet. But there's greenery in between. So they could just pull through. Or they could paint that in. And if their paints seem to be drying out, have them hug and clean their brush and then re-prime their paints. Especially the ones that they haven't been using as much. When they're wetter, it just flows that much easier around the paper, and you have a lot more color mixing because of the colors bleeding together. And like this is pretty light, so I'm going to even just kind of dribble some blue through there and see what we get mixed in. You can even do that same color on top of a flower, this blue one, and spiral through it. And if they are really, really begging to use that green that's already there, again, that idea of going off the edge. And if you have larger open spaces, that might be a spot to do a stipple and create its own flower. Do blue. So I just tipped in orange. Get that center tip in the center of the flower, the colors that come out. Ooh, very pretty. Oh, look at you. Okay. So we really want to try to fill in the space so there's not much white in between. Here's where they did kind of a yellowy orange through a yellow blob with the stipples. This could be kind of a broken spiral. And doing more of the pull. Fill space in between. And they could also combine some of those techniques. Girls, do you want to pause and show us your artwork that you've done so far? Hold it up. Are you ready, Madison? You guys can look at each other's. Great. When they're finished, we have to clean up our brushes at the end. So again, we hug. You can paint one, talk about this. Clean off the brush really well. And these ones aren't that wet. Sometimes after doing this, some of the paints will be really wet. And with a paper towel, you just kind of tap in there and absorb some of that extra moisture so they don't make a mess while they're drying in the boxes. We keep the paint brushes separate when we store those. And as the kids are turning in their artwork to set aside to dry, you would go around and give them their Art Docent sticker. Hopefully they can tell you something that they enjoyed about the lesson. Either way, slap it on them. And then when they go home, their parents will be, what is that? that, and they can talk about what a great time they had doing art with our wonderful parent volunteers. Thanks. Finished. If they've done a great job hugging, they will have a beautiful tie-dye paper towel. That's okay. That they all want to keep and take home.
That's beautiful.
So you get 3 pieces of art out of
3
this
pieces
lesson.
of art, all for the price of one. That's true. When they're finished, your job is done when they're here. Oftentimes the teachers will then cut out the bouquet, back it with a nice bright color of construction paper. They may extend it and write a paragraph about flowers, or it may just be up for art.